Hello everybody, welcome back to another Warzone Resurrection Battle Report. In this game we're going to once again see my capital army square off against a friend of mine Michael's Cybertronic forces. We're going to play a 1250 point game, and for us we have that 1% over under that we allow, so for us really our max is 1263. We're going to use the standard OOC and the basic resource and basic cards and actions you can get off of those. Michael's army is going to start off with the Immortal as his warlord, an Everesser as a lord choice. His first troop choice is going to be a squad of 5 chasseurs with the Dr. Diana clone added into the squad, and they also have a couple of enhancements. Second squad is going to be 5 chasseurs with same enhancements as the first squad, just without Dr. Diana. Third troop choice will be 5 armored chasseurs, and then his first support choice is going to be a 3-man squad of enhanced machinators with femoral enhancement, and then second support is going to be a single scorpion with steel skin and weapons overhaul. Michael's army comes in at 1262 points. My capital forces are going to start off with Captain Henry Thomas as the warlord. Then we're going to move on to having the 31st Ironsiders as their TTA, and I like that very much. I've just become a big fan of having 2 orcas in my games, and we'll just see how that goes today. I've got a Lord choice that I'm taking, Captain Mitch Hunter, taking him without Pride. First troop choice is going to be 5 light infantry that are upgraded to air cav, hoping to drop them in with some good results with Captain Thomas like I did in our previous game. Second troop choice is going to be 5 more light infantry. Then I've got a third troop choice, 5 heavy infantry. First time I'm using those, I'm looking forward to good results from their big guns. And with Mitch in the army, I can take a Sea Lion unit as a troop choice, so we'll do that, take 5 Sea Lions. My one support that I'm taking is going to be a unit of 6 Martian Banshees, and then since I'm using the Ironsiders, I can swap out, get rid of one support slot, take another light vehicle slot, so that's how I get my first orca and my second orca, and I come in at 1262 points also. Now for our game, we are going to be playing over at Michael's house using a sort of Venusian jungle setup that you can see here. We rolled 1 for our battle level, so it's going to be alpha level with priority mission only. Our initial initiative roll has a 7 for capital and a 19 for Cybertronic, and our priority mission is going to be ambush. Having won the initial initiative roll, Michael chose to be the attacker for our priority mission of ambush, and that means he has to set up at least 1 squad on every table edge, and then he's got pretty much a 5-inch deployment zone that he can move in. After that, he can put people, he has a little more degree of freedom where he puts the rest of his units. He is allowed to use rapid deployment and infiltrate and other special stuff on the deployment as normal. Being the defender has me in a kind of bad position, or at least I think it is from the beginning of the game. I have to set up using the convergence deployment, which starts off at the center of the board, and anything that's a 1-man unit like my orcas are going to have to be fully within the 6-inch, anywhere off 6 inches of the very center of the board. Other units, at least 2 members of the squad have to be within there. If I have guys that have rapid deployment and infiltrate, they cannot use it as they normally would, but they do get a little further out if they want to from the initial center of the board. So first we'll take a look at Michael's deployment. Michael's going to start off with, down at the bottom of the screen, a unit of 5 chasseurs and the Everesser in the ruins down there. Then he's also got a unit of 5 chasseurs with Dr. Diana and the Immortal up on the far right hand edge, up in the corner area there. He's got the 3 machinators in the buildings towards the top of the screen that you can see them, and then over on the far left hand upper corner, he's got the armored chasseur. The Scorpion is off board right now. He's going to bring him in using rapid deployment. For my guys, what you see is just a mess of everybody pretty much in the middle there. And who ends up winning the game is going to depend on how many points I have left at the end of turn 5. So Michael's job is just to shoot the stuffing out of all of my stuff, and I sort of imagine my mindset going into this: if Arnold Schwarzenegger was playing the role of Mitch Hunter today, it would be something like this.
Run! Go! Get to the chopper!
Okay, so that's enough talking and messing around. Time for us to get started with the game. On turn 1, here we're just doing some last minute prep as we get going, getting cards out and stuff like that. And then we'll get into the meat of some of the action for the first turn of the game. Started off with Michael's Everesser poking from around the ruins and shooting that plasma gun of his into the air cav. And I just hate this gun. If I was playing Cybertronic, I'd love this gun and I would take as many as I could, but when you get shot with it, it just sucks, and most of that air cav unit is about to get evaporated in just a sea of plasma. So I dislike that gun. There's my big head poking around the camera. I returned the favor, at least tried to, with one of my orcas moving up a little bit and then unloading into the Everesser, but he didn't get killed. He hung around for a little while there, even though I pumped up the rate of fire on one of the guns and tried to put him down, but it just was not to be yet. And that's the rockets going in there, and I just unload everything. I'm really happy with the 2-action action, as you could say, that vehicles have, where they can just unload everything. And so got some fire coming back from Michael. And he took a shot, if I remember right, into the back of the second orca that hasn't gone yet, and then put some shots into the sea lions. Got some shots of mine going back. And then we've got my other orca moving up, and down at where he's facing are the armored chasseurs that I was kind of worried about. I need to clear them out so I can start pushing into open ground and getting away from that center space. And I had a real good first turn between the orca and some other fire, if I remember right, from the Banshees that's coming up in a minute. Wiped out that whole squad, and that was really good for me. It helped open up my path to get the heck out of the center and over to what hopefully is a clear area that makes it harder for Michael to shoot me. So now that was Michael's big head in the way of the camera. That was the fire from what was left of that armored chasseur squad before they got wiped out. But by the end of turn 1, they were really no longer a threat for me, and I was able to clear out from there. And so now I've got the Banshees moving up a little bit. They deployed in that woods, or in that little jungly forest area there, so they couldn't get a movement bonus, but they all just came out of there and shot up the rest of that armored chasseur squad. And then we've got Michael's other squad of chasseurs with Dr. Diana that are moving up here, taking position, taking a few shots into guys through the woods, I think a little bit, but not a whole lot going on there. Did make a mistake in this battle report where we had the Cybertronic mirage generators later on in the game that we deployed into terrain, which we shouldn't have done, but it was not that big of a deal. And I've got my heavy infantry moving up and putting autocannon fire into the chasseurs and the Everisseur that's in the ruins. I'm at a lot of penalties here to hit, but with their rate of fire at 2, I'm liking that gun a lot, and it's got a very nice strength. Now here we got the Scorpion coming in via rapid deployment, and during the game we had a little bit of discussion about, can it redeploy anywhere after it burrows, or does it have to come up where the marker is when you put it down? And yeah, you see all my light infantry disappeared there. It killed everything. And we settled on that after it burrows and you put the marker down, if it's going to come back up at all, it can only come back up where that marker is. It can't just get multiple rapid deployments to anywhere on the battlefield. Got Michael's Immortal moving up and doing some more shooting into leftovers there of the Air Cav squad. I think by the end of turn 1 it was down to 1 guy, and Captain Thomas is all that was left over there. And we got Mitch. I think he did it on turn 1. He scouted up around the ruins there by that larger jungle piece over on the right hand side. And then we've got the machinators that are jumping across the building there. They're going to put fire into the orca that's closest to them. And it takes a lot of fire to put down one of the orcas, and I'm really happy with them. The only time I won't take one is when I take 2. And for right now, that's working out real well for me. I'm liking it a lot. So I will probably continue with that for the time being. This is us just resolving machinator shots into the orca and saves, and some final skirting around in a second of that one that's hanging out on the back end of that building. And that was my last Air Cav moving up there through the wooded area, and then Captain Thomas takes some shots into the Everisseur. And his special ability with his brace of pistols, where he can reroll misses, is very nice. And now we're pretty much coming in on the end of turn 1. Okay, and we're going to start off turn 2 with our initiative roll. Capital gets a 17 and Cybertronic gets a 1. And so that's going to help me, hopefully, push more towards the right side of the board and put some distance between me and most of Michael's army. I'm going to start off with my first orca. It's going to move up a little and take some shots into the Everisseur, and I was seeing if I'm out of range of the shotgun template there, which I was, so we're putting some shots into him. Had a little discussion here about line of sight and cover over the ruins, but the Everisseur is not so big that I'm going to deny giving him cover from the shots that are coming down from the orca. So we talked about that, looked a couple things up for a minute, and decided he does get his full heavy cover from there. And he did not go down yet. So still have some work to do over there. Had some missiles that deviated, didn't do much damage or anything there. And then now we have Michael. I think he was shooting back with the Everisseur, just more plasma gun shenanigans there that I'm not a fan of, but that's because I was on the receiving side of it. Now we've got my Sea Lions moving up and firing into the ruins where the chasseurs and the wherever a Sir is and just trying to clear a path over there. And that was just me showing Brian, another friend of ours, some of my Banshees and how I posed them. More discussions and shooting going back and forth there. Got my heavy infantry moving up and pouring more autocannon fire into the chasseurs in the ruins. Scorpion comes back up to wreak havoc, and once I start playing Cybertronic, I'm going to like them a lot. As I'm playing against them, I dislike them because they can pour out a ton of shots, and when they first come up in hand-to-hand, when they first rapid deploy, it's just, well, I guess anytime they rapid deploy, if they're close to people, they come up and just pincer people to death. And so a lot of shots going out there, and they're just really effective. And then the Scorpion is going to burrow again. So if you have enough resources to burn, it's a very effective way of causing problems when you pop up and then dropping back down. And now we're going to have my Orca. I'm in my front 180. You can see the machinators up on the building there, so we're going to put some fire into them. And we've got some deviating missiles. Those guys soaked up so much fire during this game. They really paid off as good magnets for Michael to keep me from shooting other guys. There you can see his chasseurs and Diana moving up. And then we got Mitch there, who's up in the ruins. He turned the corner and put some shots in over there, trying to get everything cleared out. I think by the end of turn 2, everything was cleared out over there, so it was less of a threat. The only fire I think I had coming at me after that was going to be from Michael's side of the table, where he's standing, moving up towards me. Right there we had the Immortal come up and shoot his plasma gun cannon thing into the Orca, and it caught some of the Banshees, and the rest of them jumped away to hopeful safety over by where Mitch and the ruins are. Now we got the machinators coming down off of the building, coming into the jungle, and putting some more shots into people. A lot of shots into the Orcas. They take a huge beating, but they are starting to rack up some damage points in various places, and I really don't want them to go down. Need to keep everything alive, or as much alive as I can, for as long as I can here. And now we're going to move into turn 3, starting off with our initiative roll for turn 3. We've got a 13 for Capital and a 9 for Cybertronic, so again, good for me to try to get out of the way. Got the Orca going first, turning around and putting some shots into the guys who are coming up to threaten us. Trying to take those machinators down, but they are still double tough. And we got some shots from Michael coming back into the Orcas, which are pretty much right now his primary targets, because everything else I've got is shifting over towards the ruins. As we got into turn 3, I'm doing a little bit of math here, trying to figure out where my points are, my percentages are for the victory conditions, which I'll get into at the end of the game. But I did start doing some math here, figuring out what has to be alive and what I can afford to let die. I've got the bottom Orca shooting into the machinators, deciding I'm too far away to use the shotgun, and I'd rather move back after the shooting instead of moving up and getting that shotgun blast. More deviating missiles. Missiles did okay once they started hitting some soft targets. Scorpion came back up and made a mess of a couple of guys. When he had fewer targets, he was less effective, but that means he was more effective to get to that point. So very good investment there in the Scorpion for Michael, I think. And he burrows down again. Now here we have some of his fire going into few of my remaining guys. I don't have a whole lot of troopers left, or just guys in general. I've got the Orcas, I've got Mitch, and Captain Thomas, who haven't done a huge amount except stay alive right now, and them being a pretty significant part of my points, they've got to stay alive. And here, I jumped back, or moved back with the, at one point, the Banshees, and tried to toss some lead down towards Michael's oncoming Cybertronic guys. Maybe wasn't the best thing to do, but because it exposed them, but I took some shots, not a lot happened, and then Michael continued to advance, putting shots into me as he was coming up. So now it's very much a fighting retreat, more so than it was even at the beginning of the game, because being cognizant that now more of the points that have to stay alive, I've got to minimize my losses at all counts here and just get away. I've got to make it to the end of turn 5 with enough points on the table, and that's really what we're playing for here. And now moving into turn 4, starting with our initiative roll. Got a 5 for Capital and a 16 for Cybertronic. So Michael is going to try to press his advantage and get some shots into me, take some guys down, trying to pull down points wherever he can. And started off with, if I remember right, some shots into the Banshees there. And then he's just consolidating towards the center of the board, firing everything that he can. My main firepower during this turn is, again, like a lot of the other turns, coming from the Orcas, just building their defensive line there. They're the ones who are defending the rest of the guys that are retreating, and the Orcas are backing up as they go. So a whole lot of that going on. Finally getting to the point where we're wearing down the Machinators, and he's starting to blow some of those armor saves, which is nice. I really like, I won't like this when I'm playing Cybertronic, but I like that the Machinators can't turn to burn to get the heal 3 off of resources. That's a nice bad thing, I guess you could call it, if you're playing against a Cybertronic army that has the Machinators in there. But otherwise, they're still really good bullet magnets. And we've got me with the Orcas mainly firing and then backing up. Michael moving up with the rest of that squad that's with Diana. And that's where we threw down those Mirage generators that we shouldn't have inside that little wooded area there. But it wasn't a huge deal. At the time, I was just at, it seemed like -100 to hit them. I just could not hit anything in there, and they still would have had light cover if they didn't have the Mirage generators, but it wasn't that huge of a deal. Scorpion jumps up, and he's putting more shots into the Orca that's in front of him, and to turn 5, where we start off with our initiative roll, ends up having a 2 for Cybertronic and a 5 for Capital. So right now, like the previous turn, I'm just backing up and shooting, and the guys that are in cover are going to stay in cover. It may not be the most heroic way for gung-ho Capital to try to win a game, but the scenario says I've got to get away, so I've got to get away. And there's no point in standing out there and shooting just to get killed to throw points away. So we've got Michael really just trying to throw as much fire as he can into me, and Scorpion pops up and drops down and does his business. And you see here, as we close in on the end of turn 5, I've got Orcas that are shooting up into the jungle there, and at the end of the turn, Michael takes down one of my Orcas, the one up here on top. You're going to see he's going to take a dive in a second. And that's just with the chasseurs moving up and shooting him, and he goes down. And so we end, coming to the end of turn 5, I've got Mitch and Captain Thomas alive, one Orca alive, and a handful of guys alive, and we'll see how my points and the percentages turn out for the victory conditions in just a second. Okay, so at the end of the game, the way that ambush works out is you can see on the table here that I've worked up, depending on how many of my points left, and this is based off my starting 1262. If I have more than 631 left, more than half my army left, it's going to be a objective completed for me, the defender. If I'm between 417 and 630, it will be partial completion for me. If it's between 316 and 416, it'll be partial completion for Michael as the attacker. And if he gets me to under a quarter of my points, so if he gets me to 315 or below, then it's going to be a complete completion. Wow, that sounds strange. Well, anyway, Michael wins decisively if that's the case. So at the end of the game, I've got one Orca left, two of my Banshees, one Air Cav guy, Captain Thomas, and Mitch. My total remaining is 672, so it is a objective completed for me as the defender. So at the end of the day, we have a victory for Capital. I think that by turn 4 or so, 3 and 4, when I started doing some math in my head, I knew what I needed to do to at least pull off the partial completion for me as the defender, and that's what I was going for. When you have a scenario game like this, you can't always think about, well, what's the most heroic thing, or what would Mitch do, or what would whatever. You know what you do? You do what you need to do to win the scenario, and that's where I pushed everybody towards the area that I thought was going to be the best for me to get into safely, and that's what I did. So if it was Michael, he would have done the same thing. Try to win the objective, try to win the scenario. That's what we're here to do. And it was a very fun game. It was a hard fought game. Had a great time playing it, and look forward to our next battle report, and see you guys later. Thanks a lot.